Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is Wednesday, November 11th, 2020. I want to remind everybody that I will be live streaming tonight, and we're going to be talking about, are they coming to take them? And we're going to be talking about the pew-pews, just so you know there. So definitely join me for that. I'm going to obviously title it a little bit differently so that I don't get hammered right from the get-go. But we're going to be talking about all of that this evening. Okay, and so we will have a interesting conversation with that, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So if you would like to join me this evening at 8 p.m., that is when Eastern time, of course, and that's when we're going to be doing that. What I wanted to talk about today, we're going to talk about some lost skills that the old pioneers had that a lot of people today have no idea about, and some of these things might be a good idea if you brush up on your skills on, and we're going to talk about a few of these. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is escape routes, underground ways to get out of town, places to hide. Back in the day, when they had to deal with a lot of in the West, they had to deal with Indians attacking or whatever and stuff like that. They had places that they could go underground and hide and stuff like that. So if you want to call that your bomb shelter or whatever you want to call it, there's a place wherever on your property that you could go to be able to hide from people that are coming there looking to do you harm. So that is something that a lot of people today don't even think about. Okay. The second thing is going to be community. There's so much that we can learn from each other if we work together. It is amazing. But people will not work together today for whatever reason, which I find very, very sad, to be honest with you. But that is something that is definitely missing, that sense of community and working together and helping people out and stuff like that. The next thing is navigation. Being able to use a compass, read a map. So many people today have no idea how to do that. Navigate by the sun or the stars, depending on, obviously today is a very overcast and we've had a lot of rain today. But if the sun was out, and depending on where the sun was, you can kind of get an idea of where you're at in the day, how much time you have. And then navigating by the stars at night, people don't do that anymore. Okay? The next one would be trapping. Knowing how to do trapping, setting deadfalls, using snares. Silent hunting is a very, very good thing to be able to do, because then people don't know when you have gotten game. So knowing your game trails, knowing how to run snares and do all that type of thing, it's a really, really good thing. Okay. Another thing to think about, there's no 911 to call. Okay, that would be the next one. A lot of people don't think about that, but there's nobody to call. In a post-event, you have to deal with whatever comes up yourselves, okay? The next one is knowing how to shoot for food and protection. Just having a weapon does not necessarily mean you know what you're doing with that weapon, okay? So it's really important to know how to shoot, to be able to hit your target, again, for either hunting or for protection. Now, to go along with that, knowing how to repair those weapons, break them down, clean them, troubleshoot them if there's any kind of issues. Also being able to reload your ammo, your empty brass casings, to take that and having a reloader and being able to reload ammunition. Really, really important stuff. Okay. The next one would be saving seeds. Knowing how to save seeds from your, you've got your garden going and you've harvested everything, and then saving seeds for the next growing season to replace seeds. It's a really good thing to do. You should be doing that every year no matter what. And along with that, let's go with gardening, knowing how to garden. Now, I've talked about gardening a lot and how important gardening is, and people don't think about it anymore, but like back in the 1800s, boy, gardening was a huge thing. Everybody gardened, okay? So the next thing would be stockpiling wood. Now, obviously not a lot of people burn wood anymore, but if you do have a wood stove and you have wood, having more than what you need is important. It gives it a chance for that wood to dry out more, number one, make it more seasoned. And again, in an SHTF event, If you have a good stockpile of wood, it's going to give you that advantage moving forward, because you're not going to be scrambling right away to be like, oh my God, we got to get a whole bunch of wood. All right, so that's something to think about as well. The next one would be, back in the day, clothes were all made by hand. People don't know how to make clothes anymore. They don't know how to do sewing. They don't know how to do repairs to clothes. If there's a tear or a rip, they don't know what to do with that. So that's something that I think is really a good skill to have, is knowing how to sew, number one, and to be able to make your own clothes. I think that that's really, really good. Now here's one that I definitely have not ever tried to do, is tanning leather using the brains of the animal. You know, like a deer, they use the deer brains and they use that to tan the hide. Now, that's a process you can look up. I think it's something that you should probably write down. It's because, again, in a post-event, it's, you know, you're going off shopping to the store is not going to be happening anymore. So you're going to need to be able to take those deer hides and everything else and turn them into something that's going to be useful, okay? The next one is going to be blacksmithing. Knowing how to do basic repairs, how to, you know, manipulate stuff. Not everybody's going to know how to blacksmith, but there's definitely, that is a huge skill that's going to be greatly in demand in a post-event. So I think that's really, really important to, you know, if you have somebody in your circle that has some kind of basic knowledge of blacksmithing, or if you have the tools that you can utilize, that you can learn it afterwards. So that's something else that I think is important. Preserving food without a refrigerator, okay? So back in the day, you had a lot of smokehouses and those type of things where people preserve food. Obviously, canning is another way. A lot of people did canning, preserving meat and stuff like that way. It's just a smart thing to do. It's a good thing to know how to do, but something to think about in that type, you know, in that time period, okay? Let's see, the next one is being able to start a fire without matches. A lot of people don't even think about that. They don't have any basic idea of how to start a fire at all unless they have matches. And even if they have matches, a lot of times they don't know the basics of how to get a proper fire started. So I think it's really important to know how to do those type of things. The next one is going to be building a home or a shelter, or repairing a fence, those type of things. A lot of people don't even think about that. But having that basic carpentry knowledge, I think, is important. I'll tell you what, I've come a long way since I first moved out here. I've learned a lot as far as carpentry. I'm not any kind of carpenter. I will never claim to be a carpenter. But I've learned a lot with working with Greg and stuff like that. And it really does make a difference getting that basic knowledge down. Okay. The next one, let's see, oh, hold on a second, guys. I have my little list here, so I'm, proper hygiene. People don't think about proper hygiene. At least bathing on a semi-annual basis, like once every 3-4 days, if that's what you have to do in a post-event. But being able to get yourself clean is going to be so important. Being able to brush your teeth is going to be important. You want to try to save your teeth, clean up as much as you can. It's going to make a big difference, okay? Here's something that people don't think about either, cooking with a fire. So you're outdoor, you're cooking, knowing how to use, you know, cook over an open fire. So that's definitely something to think about as well. All right, let's see, the next one. Let's see, knowing where bee honey is, okay? Where the beehives are out here, how to produce that honey, get that honey, because back in the day, you know, sugar wasn't readily available like it is today. So a lot of times if you wanted that sweetener, you relied on honey. Well, you had to know where the bees were at, where they keep, you know, so you could harvest that honey and stuff like that. Obviously, we have beekeeping now as well, where a lot of people do beekeeping. Not a bad skill to have, not a bad thing to have on your property, to be able to produce your own honey. So that's a good thing as well. All right, so let's see. So here's something. I haven't done this in forever, but knowing how to ride a horse. Having those skills of how to handle that animal and being able to ride it and ride it with confidence. In a post event, if we have no more gasoline or no more vehicles, going back to, it'll be bicycles and it will be horses. That's how people are going to get around. So knowing how to ride a horse, not a bad thing to know about, like even right now. Okay, herbal remedies, knowing how to get your wild edibles, being able to make concoctions that are going to help you with different types of sicknesses. Very, very important to know what to do. And again, these are skills that people in olden days knew without even thinking about, okay? Common first aid, knowing basic first aid, knowing what to do if somebody gets a cut or if there's a possible sprain or whatever the case may be. Just having that basic knowledge to be able to help somebody in that type of way is very, very useful as well. Now here's one I think a lot of people don't even think about, and I don't, because we don't really have it up in this area, but knowing how to pan for gold. Again, gold and silver are going to retain their value. So if you're in an area where there's gold and you know how to pan gold, obviously that's going to add to your wealth, and that's still going to hold value even in a post event. So that's something to think about, okay? Knowing how to use a rope, tie knots. You know, like paracord is a really good thing to have, but knowing, you know, how to tie different knots so that you can use them for different things. There's so many different knots that can be used, and people just don't think about that, okay? Now here's something that I think is really, really important, okay? Knowing the psychology of desperate people. So knowing what signs and symptoms to look for when people are desperate, and try to avoid those people if you possibly can. So your neighbor who lives next door, right? Very mild-mannered, nice person and stuff like that. But in that post-event, when they don't have things and they know that you possibly do, they could be banging on your door demanding that you help them. You know, so that's, you got to know that psychology and know what to look for and know how to deal with that as well, okay? Another one would be stealth. Knowing how to get around very, very quietly, using your environment to help you, you know, being cautious. That's such a huge, huge thing. So, anyway, okay, here, the last one I'm going to talk about is, and I think this is actually one that's important and something that I think people should know how to do. Know how to make candles and wicks. If you can make candles and wicks, you're never going to have a problem with having lighting at night and all those type of things. I think that's really super important. I think that's something that we should absolutely know how to do. Really, really, it's a good skill to have. And again, as a candle maker in a post-event, you're never going to be out of business. So, again, those are just things to think about. And those are older ways that people don't generally have anymore, old skills that people don't have anymore. Something to think about. Now, some of you may have some of the skills, some of you may have most of the skills. But a lot of people don't have, realistically, a lot of modern people today have zero when it comes to those skills. Just even how to read a map, as simple as that is, or how to use a compass. They have not a clue in the world. And that's kind of sad, actually, if you think about it. In a post-event, that doesn't go well for your longevity. If you don't know how to make a proper shelter to keep yourself out of the weather, you get hypothermia and then you're gone. So something to think about and stuff like that. So again, anyway, tonight, 8 p.m., I will be doing my live stream. We will be talking about, are they coming for them? That may be the title. And of course, we're talking about the pew-pews. So we will talk about that this evening, and I think that that'll be an interesting conversation that we need to have. Something that definitely needs to be discussed, especially if it goes forward and Biden is the president. So we'll need to discuss those things, all right? So anyway, guys, I am going to jump off here from now. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope your days are going good. I look forward to seeing everybody tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember, we are all in this together. That is important to remember. Also remember to hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day, tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen in life. So it's really important. I'm just watching the chickens, they're funny. It's really important to tell the people that you love and care about every day how you feel. Also remember STD, step, thing, and day. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from reaching those goals is you, okay? So stay positive, stay away from those negative people, and you're going to be in a much better situation. Learn your skills, prep, okay? I will talk to you all later. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.